Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. It's time to talk about the new M1 that is coming to the game, because it turns out it's fake. The vehicle itself, the M1 KVT, never really existed. Instead, what it's based on is an M1A1, which it seems a lot of people are annoyed about, that we're not getting an M1A1 premium, which is surprising since there was such a backlash towards the bunch of premiums that we got for aviation, which basically took over the high tier bracket of the game. But c'est la vie. The M1 has been confirmed by SMIN and a few others to have been picked because it was specifically chosen for its rank and BR. The vehicle suits its intended placement perfectly well, and this would not have happened with the M1A1. They have no interest in changing it back to the M1A1 or anything like that. So the general fact is, even though this vehicle never existed, it's close enough to what did exist and also fits the purpose. One of the things that also SMIN talks about is, of course, the general rules around adding different things. And I've talked about this before and why it is an issue and will continue to be an issue for a lot of people. And he says, just to be clear, we're not breaking a rule here. It's exactly why we don't have an official set of rules set in stone for vehicle criteria. It allows no real flexibility. If we do that, and going by past times, when we did that, such as we won't have supersonics in War Thunder, we won't have missiles in War Thunder, we won't add Israel a nation, etc., is exactly why we don't like to lock these things down in that way anymore. We have general points and guidelines that are followed, but these can change depending on the situation and needs. Ultimately, it's down to the developers. So basically what this says is there aren't any rules. And I know that people are going to be annoyed when they hear that, but it's been this way for a very long time, and it's just kind of how it is at the end of the day. The rule is simple. Does it fit the game, and will it either balance the game or will it be profitable? Those are three things which fit, and if you haven't seen the general trend recently with not just the high-tier naval stuff such as the Chobakov, which was added, or even the high-tier aviation stuff like the F-16AJ, or stuff like even the Radkampfwagen and things like that, you may have missed the fact that this train sailed many years ago when it came to War Thunder. I talked about it, a few years ago, how this was kind of I suppose you class it as a breaking point or a changing of the guard or whatever you want to call it. But these ideas have completely shifted when it comes to Gaijin and when it comes to all of this stuff. This means that a lot of people who are looking forward to stuff such as ahistorical vehicles or fake vehicles have a chance to be able to see them, which is pretty cool. But also at the same time, it means that balance is going to be thrown out the window and everything is going to go a little bit nutty when it comes to that stuff. Now, looking at the M1 itself, the M1 is a pretty cool premium. It's an interesting vehicle. My only thing I would say about it is since they are eventually going to add in rank 8 for ground, just like they have aviation, they could have held this vehicle back and actually make it an M1A1 premium, just like they did for aviation. Now, as I said, there's going to be a lot of people who aren't okay with that, and that's fine. That's just how the cookie crumbles sometimes, There's going to be a lot of people who are annoyed about it, and then there's going to be a lot of people who are going to play it. So it's just one of those things at the end of the day. The other thing to also note is you can obviously tell why they picked this thing. It's unique, it's interesting, and it has a lot of additional features. If you have a look at other vehicles which are at the BR, which are premiums, the Challenger 1, and then also the Leopard 2A4, and of course the Terms, they are similar in reach, where they are similar to tech tree vehicles, but they have slight differences to them. The M1 KVT is no different to this, and therefore it should be a little bit easier to balance compared to a uniquer vehicle that they've added in. They've already added stuff like the Wolfpack, and they've already added obviously the XM1, but this is a new level of premium because of the fact it's going to be higher BR, and they want to create a similar experience to the standard M1, which is in the general tech tree. Another person actually tries to talk about the Panther 2 or the King Tiger 105, which I think is a completely fair comparison here. Like, why is it that these are different? And SMIN says, we don't plan to re-add the Panther 2 or King Tiger 105. They were not unhistorical, but had several reasons for their removal, which we have explained numerous times now. The King Tiger 105 was physically impossible, and the Panther 2 was a mash of about 3 to 4 different projects. This is simply just an M1 that's used as an aggressor with the visuals of a made-up Russian tank from a made-up nation anyway. So, the fact is, the way that they put it, the Panther 2 is not possible because it's not a specific, test or, isn't a specific design. And the King Tiger was physically impossible because, well, it is. All you got to do is have a look at the turret itself. So that's an interesting thought. The idea of deciding what is possible and what is not. That if you want to use that as a guideline, then we are really into the crazy town when it comes to different designs or when it comes to different stuff like this. I did actually want to put in a little part here which actually looks at a lot of the designs which you see from these kind of like aggressor or op4 ideas. There's a ton of them that are about the place, and there's a ton of Sheridan designs. There's like a Sheridan Shilker, and then a bunch of other Sheridan stuff, and also even some Chieftain stuff. So this does open us up to a crazy world when it comes to these designs, which is pretty cool. But one of the things that has to be mentioned about this M1 is they're taking an idea which was specifically for one variant and plumping it onto another. And I'm sure many people won't be too annoyed about that, but there is always going to be a set of people who are. Because what happens in the future if you want to see the M1A1 with the KVT? Do they just add it in? Does it become a series of vehicles alongside the standard M1? Or do they just decide, nah, it's not worth it? And also, what were the other options for the M1? Surely there must have been many different M1 Abrams which had some cool camouflages, which you could have put camo netting on as well on top of what you already had, making it unique but also historical. Surely that is something that could have been done. But instead what we get is a weird mashup of different ideas, which seems to be the way that Gaijin is going when it comes to a lot of these general vehicles. Whether it be the F-16, whether it be the Chebakov, well, whether it be stuff like the M1 KVT, or many others. The other point to also bring up is the fact that top tier in general is a completely fictional place anyway, because we don't have all of the stats on all of the vehicles, which is why it will be constantly complained about no matter what is added. You always have the set of people who want specific rounds for specific guns, and then they're beaten back when Gaijin says, well, it's a balancing factor, and then they complain about reloads while bringing up some random YouTube video, and then they get buffed back again because once again it's a balancing factor, and then people start talking about armor schemes and how much they are supposed to be able to stop rounds by, and then they get buffed back again because it's not actual true values, and so on and so forth. It's just a mess and has been for years since Update Advancing Storm, and it's never going to change, and it will happen again with this M1 KVT. And what has to be understood, especially about top tier by many people, is that this is fictional. It has been fictional for a very long time. The historical part of War Thunder does not exist at top tier and never has. Well, it has, but not for about 6 or 7 years now. Times have changed, and mindsets have to change with it. As always, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank Millie Draper, Juan the Panda, Nick R. Kupila, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Merciless Reaper, Orange Tail, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Moxie B. Young, Peter Grayling, Jerry Provolt, Bareen, Alan Hacker, Sem Arslan, Uncle Bean, Derek R., and Lafouche for supporting the channel.